I never loved you anyway, Tom. I love you and always have, Gatsby.
Fine, let's get a divorce. I love Myrtle Wilson anyway.
Come on, Gatsby. Let's drive away to the airport. Then we can fly to a different country without Tom.
I'm going to go pick up Myrtle.
Myrtle ran out after arguing with Mr. Wilson. Then Tom drives up.
Myrtle, I'm here to take you away to my house and we can get married!
Okay.
And they did.
Dun 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 dun. I do.
And then Mr. Wilson is really happy because he decides he never really loved his wife in the first place.
And so was everybody else.
The end!
The end!
In Chapter 3, first Nick talks about the crazy parties Gatsby has and how he lives and how rich he is. Then he talks about the first party he went to at Gatsby's house. Next, Nick talked about his everyday life and how he started seeing Jordan Baker more. In his blue gardens, men and girls came and went like moths among the whisperings and the champagne and the stars. This is an example of a simile that compares moths to the people who go to Gatsby's parties. Then, excited with triumph, glide on through the sea change of faces and voices and color under the constantly changing light. This is a metaphor comparing the sea to the change. I believe that on the first night I went to Gatsby's house, I was one of the few guests who had actually been invited. This is an example of irony. The girls had moved casually on, and her remark was addressed to the premature moon, produced like the supper, no doubt, out of a caterer's basket. This is a simile comparing the moon to a supper produced out of a caterer's basket. Somebody told me they thought he killed a man once. This is an example of foreshadowing and symbolism, because later in the book, Gatsby is partially responsible for the death of 2 people. A stout, middle-aged man with enormous owl-eyed spectacles was sitting somewhat drunk on the edge of a great table, staring with unsteady concentration at the shelves of books. This is an example of a metaphor comparing owls to the glasses that this man was wearing. She had a fight with the man who says he's her husband, explained a girl at my elbow. This is an example of foreshadowing because later in the book, Tom and Daisy don't get along. At intervals, she appeared suddenly at his side like an angry diamond and hissed promise into his ear. This is a simile comparing this lady to an angry diamond. The light of the moon was shining over Gatsby's house, making the night fine as before, and surviving the laughter and the sound of his still glowing garden. This is an example of a metaphor comparing the moon to a wafer. "You're a rotten driver," I protested. "Either you ought to be more careful, or you oughtn't to drive at all." "I am careful." "No, you're not." "Well, other people are," she said lightly. "What's that got to do with it?" "They'll keep out of my way," she insisted. "It takes 2 to make an accident." "Suppose you met somebody just as careless as yourself." "I hope I never will," she answered. "I hate careless people. That's why I like you." This is an example of foreshadowing. Everyone suspects himself of at least one of the cardinal virtues, and this is mine. I am one of the few honest people that I have ever known. This is an example of foreshadowing because later he finds out many of the people he knows aren't very honest. The theme of The Great Gatsby is to be honest, loyal, and selfless. This is the theme because Daisy, Gatsby, Tom, and the other characters lied a lot, and eventually their lies were discovered. And when they tried to argue, it was hard because nobody is convinced by lies. They're also disloyal to their spouses and lovers and very selfish. They enjoyed this for a while until their lives got really complicated because of their disloyalty, lies, and selfishness. Therefore, the theme of The Great Gatsby is to be honest, loyal, and selfless. The novel teaches that one of the main things about the American dream is that people want to be happy and never alone. They also want to be rich. They want to find the husband or wife of their dreams. Daisy showed this by having all of those lovers when she was young, then marrying Tom, and then finding he wasn't perfect and looking for someone new. Tom and Mrs. Wilson did the same exact thing. Gatsby always wanted to marry the girl of his dreams, and he worked and waited for 5 years to try and get her to marry him. The characters also want to just have fun as part of their American dream. They go to parties often and try to enjoy themselves. They also want to be rich and able to buy expensive things. The characters always try to brag and show off their riches. Gatsby always strived to be rich, and he tried to get Daisy to love him with his expensive things. That is how The Great Gatsby teaches about the American dream.